Hey everyone, and welcome to Big Red Homestead. I'm Josh, that's Caleb, and today, come on, you know what we're talking about. We are reacting to Nebraska, Colorado, and breaking down the monstrous game versus Northern Iowa this week. And obviously there was a ton to get through about this Colorado game. I'm just saying, the comment section is suddenly really quiet. It is peaceful down there, and we're going to be going through all of that today after someone riled up the opposing fans last week. It's going to be a fun one. Caleb, how you doing?
I am doing great. We had to wait a little bit on the reaction because I'd just be yelling the whole time if we would have waited. If we wouldn't have waited, I'd just been screaming at you guys for 15 minutes. It was so exciting for Nebraska football. Guys, this is a big moment for our channel. Josh and I, we've been doing this for many moons, years. And then this is the first time in 7 that we're 2-0.
How in the world is that possible? That actually is impossible.
We have we've gone through this dark age like no one else has. And this is the first time we're ranked past the preseason. I don't even count the Scott Frost 25. That was all hype juice, just hoping for that Colorado game. To be here at number 23 and actually feel like we're deserving because our defense is so good, because we have a quarterback in Dylan Raiola and the offense looks improved. To feel like we actually are a top 25 ranked team, not just because our name is Nebraska, but I think legitimately we have a ball club who is worthy of being a top 25 team. Even the Mike Riley era, right? 2016, we felt like even, when they were 7-0, it was just all hype. We didn't feel like we really had that good of a defense. Here it feels like we play complementary football. And for the first time in a long, long time, I feel like Nebraska football is a deserving top 25 team. And It's been a long time coming, and it's nice to see. For everybody, the excitement in Nebraska, it's palpable. And I cannot wait for every single game.
And to the Colorado fans, you got to say it. You told them so.
I said beat down, 20-some points, and that's exactly what it was.
You called it.
6.5 was not nearly close enough for the line.
Your prediction was really nice. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I think, again, I was surprised. The thing that surprised me is
let's just get right into the reaction.
Let's get to it. How good our defense played against Shedeur Sanders. My goodness, I did not see this coming. Tommy Hill with the pick 6 blows my mind in so many ways. I've watched the play in disbelief at least 20 times because Shedeur Sanders has been so good. He is probably the number 1 draft pick. And for him to make such a horrible throw, our defensive line had him scrambling.
Literally the last year and a half, he's probably the best quarterback in the country at taking care of the ball. So to force something like that against him is huge. Massive.
And the physicality our defense continues to play with, the disruption we have because of Ty and Nash up at front. And then now we add our linebackers. We see John Bullock look good in pressure. We see Robinson look good in pressure. We see Princewell look good in pressure. And continuously, that's something that we needed to see. And then also last year, we saw our defensive line get better. We saw some improvement. But again, we couldn't take the ball away. And then to see that, Willis McGahee could come in, get the ball. We saw that Tommy Hill made the play of the game. It shut the door at that point, and then our defense continued to just put the foot on their neck for the whole game. This is a top 15 defense. Again, that's the best quarterback we will see all year. Will Howard's great, and Miller Moss is fine. He's a good quarterback, but that's not Shedeur Sanders. And I know that they didn't have the rest of the pieces, but still for our defense to just put together a complete game like that, we are a problem for the rest of the Big Ten, for the rest of the entire season. I cannot wait. These guys are absolute dogs. Absolute dogs.
For us to do that, obviously, we only blitzed around 30% of the time in this game. So we mostly were making Shedeur trying to beat our coverage and just trying to keep the play in front of us. That was the strategy coming in, clearly, was just to make sure you take away the big time plays. And we trusted our front 6 to lock up the running game. And we talked about how that was going to be such an advantage for us in this game. Colorado does not have a run game. It's literally non-existent in this season.
No.
It's zero. It's nothing.
You can't with that O-line.
It's the blatant truth. And so we talked about that matchup. We talked about the matchup, specifically their center versus Ty Robinson last week. And we talked about that matchup a lot in the last video. And we literally saw it on the first drive. Ty Robinson just steamrolls him straight into Shedeur. And that was the literal theme of the entire game. So that's why we both felt confident. We do have a pretty good track record when we're both very confident about a game that Nebraska ends up pulling it out. This was one of those weeks where I just was like, this just seems like on paper, like this is inevitable.
And we both felt bad going into it. Then you watch the tape and you're like, man, North Dakota State's not the same as they once were. They're not as confident. Yeah. They're not as dominant as they have been. And Colorado just did not look quite the same as they have been in years past. And it's awesome to see. And again, our defense to go a full 60 minutes. Again, even the backup guys looking good. And then the dominance on both sides of the ball, physicality. Again, look how many guys Colorado on both sides of the ball ended up getting injured, especially on the offensive side. They were not able to match that Big Ten physicality, something that Nebraska, again, has been missing for so many years. After the Bo Pelini era, we just were not the hard-nosed team, something that Mickey Joseph, towards the end of the career, we finally started seeing again, that physicality that Nebraska has. That is absolutely our brand of football. Nebraska's not an easy place to live. You know, it's cold, it's hot, it's humid, the temperature changes, there's extreme weather, the pollen. There's nothing quite easy about it. Farming here hasn't been easy, right? And that's just the brand of football, is the tough resiliency that we haven't seen here in a long, long time.
Sure.
And you see that Matt Rule has that Midwestern mentality again of just nothing easy. Right. I'm starting to see it here.
The discipline there is exciting. And I think that was one of the big takeaways early on from a team perspective was Husker fans literally were like, it feels like the curse was broken because Colorado was literally doing the things that Nebraska always did. The penalties, the irresponsible play, the personal fouls, the pass blocking, the sacks taken, the pick six on an away game. And we literally shout out Ohio State, like Tommy Armstrong. These are things that happened for years for Nebraska where it's like, we just make those mistakes early and we can't get out of our own way. Sure, we had those moments in this game, the blocked punt and plenty of penalties.
Special teams, man, in general.
Special teams in general wasn't rough, allowed the long kick return. So there are things, of course, we'll talk about those things. But, you know, overall, especially in that first half, you can see that so many of those things are already starting to get fixed a little bit here. And week one teased it. Week two is really putting some strong evidence forward now, and we can continue to build on that moving into the future. So that's why you got to be pretty optimistic here overall following that. What other big things on the defensive side for you? Positives, negatives when it comes to specifics, players that you liked. Obviously, the rushing with 4 was something you mentioned already, but that was what we came in really looking at, and it was effective against Colorado's lackluster offensive line, to say the least. Do you feel like it was enough for you to get excited about that moving forward in the Big Ten play?
Yeah.
Or is it more about Colorado's offensive line?
I mean, I think it's drastic because of Colorado's offensive line, especially the getting pressure with 4. It's definitely exaggerated, yeah. But I still think that there is juice to squeeze there because of how nice Ty has looked in a couple games, and Nash as well. We know they're good at the run stop. I think the outside linebackers
and we haven't even really dialed up the blitzes yet.
Exactly. I think the outside linebackers looking a little bit better. The interior linebackers looking better when we call them to blitz. And we didn't call them that many times, but when they did, it was automatic pressure. I think Bullock looked nice. Again, all those guys were really impressive. I think for me, the big takeaways was, you know, Bullock was one of those players that I was concerned about going to this year. And he did a lot of really nice things this whole game. Pass deflection, some solid things in coverage in ways that he wasn't able to do last year, where at least he is serviceable. And last year he was a real liability. So you see a step up from there. I saw a little bit more. I saw a little bit more speed from him as well. Things that we really needed for John Bullock. So the coaches had talked about how he had really improved over the summer. I saw those things in this game. And that's the thing that I continue to hope to see. And then Bayer as well, something where it was a little question mark of why he was maybe on the field when we thought that other guys might step in. But we saw him great in coverage again this game. And again, he had one of the highest coverage grades on the team.
I mean, like the 4th down stop for him, like those types of plays are things that we just didn't see last year from those guys. And so this is where I get excited because it feels like we're actually developing a program where guys do actually improve year over year, which for literally the last like 5 or 6 years, that hasn't been the case almost at all for most players. And so essentially now, like, I mean, literally Bayer stood up the center, shed the center, and then came out just bang, point of attack straight into the RB, stuffed him. And it's like, oh my word, like this is like a legitimately elite play for Mekhi Bayer here. So Yeah, the development for me is just a huge highlight and something that like is truly evidence that we're building a program.
Colorado just didn't improve offensively besides Travis Hunter looking maybe a little bit more solid on the wide receiver. But
more depth at receiver.
Yeah, and some more depth at receiver, which was good to see that we could cover so well.
RB and
yeah. I mean, the RB, the position seemed fine. Their offensive line was just as bad. Maybe their left tackle was a little bit better, but it just doesn't matter when the middle of their offensive line is still
and
just
when our strength
a crumble cookie. It's
the
right there.
Yeah, is so bad for Colorado. It's
matchups
so bad.
makes fight, right? Matchups makes fights, and we had just a clear matchup advantage at the middle of the line, which is what we said in the video. And that was the big turning point for our game, and that was the linchpin for the whole defensive show.
I mean, they brought out Terrence Crawford for a reason. I mean, come on,
yes,
right?
Sir.
You got to know how to counterpunch. Night.
Exactly. Oh man, that Errol Spence fight.
Just looking at the defense as a whole, I mean, again, we've been playing it still fairly vanilla, which is interesting because we haven't like last season we showed a lot more in the first few weeks. So we're saving a lot here for Big Ten play, I think. And so for me, the question is how much better can we get? We've only played like 2 or 3% man coverage in this season so far. So like literally out of the entire defense, Mekhi Bayer has played 2.9% of his snaps in man coverage, and that's the highest out of anyone after 2 weeks. So what are your thoughts on this defense when it comes to transitioning more into man and how we're going to utilize that? Of course, blitzing equals man generally.
Yep.
And we haven't blitzed much, which is why we've been playing a lot of zone. So how do you foresee this? Do you see this as an advantage moving forward into Big Ten play? Of course, we still have one more game to go.
Absolutely. We felt bad in zone all last season. So we had trouble getting to the quarterback, only sending 4. So we both really agreed with Tony White's plan to, again, when you're not great at coverage, you send blitzes and you hope for the best. And we were really able to do that well last year. Now it feels like we can be a balanced defense where we can really switch up and you don't know when we're going to hit you. And we still haven't really seen that safety blitzes, those corner blitzes too often from us. So we can still really scare a lot of teams. And I think I've just been so impressed with how well all of our guys have been able to do the job, and especially in zone coverage where we really struggled last year. So many people seem to really understand the assignment more. I think we can still get better. I think there was a couple spots where Isaac Gifford, he could have played the zone better on a couple of those. I think there was still plenty of room, especially for our safety play. I think Malcolm didn't look great. And so I think some of our
against these really athletic teams, Gifford sometimes struggles. Yeah, against the little bit slower, buckled down 12 personnel off Big Ten offenses, that's where Gifford shines. But when these spread offenses, I think you can kind of see the athletic cap is here with Gifford at times, I think.
But it gets you excited for like an Ohio State game, right? Like you need this zone coverage. You need to, you need to be able to do both.
It's like guys like Stephen Thompson right now on PFF is currently the 7th highest graded linebacker in zone coverage out of 462 qualified. Mekhi Bayer is 38th and Bullock is 66th. So we've got some guys who are really looking great in zone. We've got a lot of reps there so far. And when it comes to pass rush, just specifically, James Williams right now is 22nd in pass rush out of 703 qualified players. Sherman is 33rd. Prince Will is 46th. So we've got some guys who are really getting after the edge guys are really getting after it. And that 4 down set, that basically that 4-3 set that we have for pass rushing downs is really
so
effective.
Good. Looks so good. Yeah, it really does get you excited. And again, it makes you excited for some of those big games against a USC, against an Ohio State, where we're going to face, some more elite teams, where it is going to stretch us more than a Colorado because, they have better offensive lines and just the same amount of, solid weapons and, solid quarterbacks. But it makes you think that, we can really stay in this game with them defensively, and we can keep it close because of how good so many of these guys are at doing our jobs. And again, playing the more zone, I think, is something we're inexperienced at, especially from last year. So to get as many reps as we can of this headed into Big Ten play, so we can really switch it up, I think it was a great game plan for both of them. And again, once you play a great quarterback like Shador, you want to be able to cover spaces, make them, test them in tight windows, and make it hard, especially when, it's collapsing. I think it was the safest way to do it and to make them earn it each play because our defensive line was so good and really keeping make sure they didn't take the top off of us in any sort of way. So I really liked it. And I think, this is exciting for our defense. I really do believe we are a top 15 defense in the country with upside. I still think, maybe the safety play can get better for us. The linebackers can continue to improve. But when you feel like our front four is as good as it is, and you have Tommy Hill, who is he's a playmaker. We saw this in the second half of he is a playmaker. And Matt Rule has been talking about he needs guys who can make plays. Tommy Hill has been that guy. All of the second half of last season, to see him do it against such a good QB and take advantage when, he only saw one play like that, and he absolutely took advantage to the house for 6.
Mm-hmm.
You can't beat it. And so,
yeah, I mean, right now,
I think we're gonna make
worry
more plays.
Maybe is like Hartzog to me feels a little bit underwhelming in coverage. We haven't seen him play much man yet, but to me, there's a little bit of an issue there.
Yeah.
And we still even saw that last year as well. Like there is some times where he's just outsized and outmatched. And so I would still want to see more from Hartzog. But good news is, again, we're not going to be playing too many other teams who want to throw the ball deep downfield this season. So it's like
Ohio State,
up
USC.
really well. USC and Ohio State, yeah. And Illinois at times. But
yeah, Altmaier. Yeah, he'll have some chances. But it's exciting. Yeah. I think, again, we had so much man last season against him that, again, this zone will be fun. Where we actually feel like it's not soft coverage, but nice coverage the whole way. Our guys just look so much more heads up and passing guys off from their zones and knowing how to do their job. Watching back on the tape, which really made you feel excited most plays. And again, Shador is such a good QB that if you don't do it, he will make you pay if he has time. So,
right.
And man, did he's impressive, even on that film. So I'm excited for the defense. It's a ton of great film for us on zone too. And just on what we can do and how to get better. When you play such great competition like that, it's just this great film for you to better understand what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, these first 2 weeks, we knew that both these teams are going to really attack the jack linebackers in pass coverage when they dropped back. And so we saw that in this game where Colorado went after Prince Will quite a few times when he dropped back. And last week, we'd seen it with them going after Sherman. So there were some things there. But overall, like, you got to walk away pretty happy with it, considering the high upside that Colorado's offense has, and considering what they did against us last year in the second half, which was
it took
tough.
It took kind of a crappy penalty for them to be able to move the field enough,
right?
To, really get in the end zone for a touchdown and then a great throw.
But instead, it was 28-0 at one point in this game. So that's where you get excited for sure. So okay, on the offensive side for Nebraska, where do you want to start? Obviously, there's a lot there. So take it away. What are your thoughts here on the offensive side and takeaways?
In the first half, it was so exciting because the defense gave the offense such great field position right away so many times. And then Dylan really took advantage. I think I want to start with Dylan because we had a great game against UTEP. The level of competition now levels up. We knew that Colorado had a good pass rush. That's where they went into the portal and got a bunch of guys, especially on the defensive end side. How does this going to look for Dylan, where I know that he's going to get more pressure? And he looked great. I think he can still get better under pressure. PFF said, I had a 44 grade, and, Bryce was still getting cooked. Most of his pressure came from that right tackle side, which it looked like a lot of the game, but that's okay. And the other question mark for us was how the rollouts. Dylan did not look good last week. And so how is he going to look
just
this
play
week?
Action in general?
Yeah, play action. Can he look better? And then, can he look a little bit better when getting pressured, because it's going to be just a better team. And what we saw is the rollouts really improved. Under pressure, there's still more, but the second time you watch through this game, I felt even better about how Dylan played than on the initial walkthrough, especially even in the second half. He is so impressive and poised, making the right throw. Just the amount of turnover-worthy plays are so few. I know
that's really the key there, right? Taking care of the ball and just reducing the plays where you lose yardage. I think those are just massive X factors.
And he did that with his legs. We saw that from this game, that he actually,
that was a big takeaway.
He can extend the pocket, extend it with his legs. We saw him get in the first quarter. We saw him get the first down on a scramble play on like a 3rd and 11. So impressive for him to be able to get the first down, keep his eyes downfield. And then again, the defensive ends were causing a lot of pressure, and he escaped the pocket multiple times to either throw it away or that great throw downfield to Jalen Lloyd on the 1v1 where we get set up for a touchdown. You continue to see the flashes of greatness for Dylan Raiola. We hear Matt Rule talk about it too, on how everybody on the offense needs to upgrade their level of play, because in the second half, I was frustrated at the start. I'm like, this does look conservative. Dylan is so good in the pocket, which PFF also has just affirmed and edified that that Dylan Raiola is insane in a clean pocket. He is one of the best quarterbacks, top 15 in the country in those statistics already as a freshman. That is
2 weeks.
2 weeks. But it looks insane. And for good reason, because he is so accurate. Again, we get so many pass interference calls because he just puts the ball in the exact right spot. That comeback route to Banks on the sideline where he throws it right shoulder where only he can get it. It's a clear pass interference.
The defender has to PI him essentially.
And it's just on a perfect window. You can't put the ball anywhere closer if you hand it off to him. It's so impressive.
Those are the things that we saw last week, and he did them again this week. So you got to get excited about those things that you're already seeing. They're like, okay,
against a better team.
He knows how to put that ball in the right place to draw out pass interference. Clearly, again, he has the shiftiness in the pocket, and that was one of my things going into the year. I was like, okay, I need to see it before I'm all in on Raiola. Is how shifty can he be in the pocket? Does he have that Mahomes-esque one step get out? And we even saw that on that bomb to Jalen Lloyd. It was just one step to avoid, and that's where he looked a lot like Patrick Mahomes there, you got to say. And so those are the plays that get you really, really excited about the future potential upside for Patrick Mahomes. For Dylan Raiola.
That's right. You say it. Patrick Mahomes.
I said it already,
2.
guys. Watch out.
Dylan Raiola. He's so detail-oriented. You can just tell in the preparation. Matt Rule continues to talk about it, which we know that Matt Rule he practices what he preaches. He's talking about only the guys that really walk the walk. And you watch the film again, it's like Dylan Raiola put the ball in places where he could have had 2 more touchdowns if those guys made the plays. He's putting that ball where he can hit the ball. And they're going to those are going to connect at some point as he continues to get everybody's timing down, as he gets more time and gets more comfortable. He is an absolute problem, and I cannot wait to see him, in 6 weeks, even where Dylan's going to continue to improve. There's going to be a couple games where, it's just, we're going to see how great he is.
I think one of the best plays for me was, I can't remember which tight end it was, but he was lined up in the slot, and there was an underneath route, I think it was to Ramir, that he basically eyed the linebacker and just had his eyes locked in on Ramir.
Yeah, it was the linebacker one, yeah.
Drew the linebacker in, zipped it over the top, man. That was so clean. It was like, okay, that's a veteran, senior, fifth-year senior type of quarterback play.
Right after a 10-yard penalty, too.
On like second and 21 or something, right?
Yeah, I think 24 or something, picks up the first down. Incredible.
So that's where you get so pumped. Again, there is still some questions. We want to see how he handles blitzes and how well he can deal with pressure the rest of the season. Like right now, like you said, when not blitz, he's graded 11th best in the country in PFF. When blitz, he's 77th. So there is a big difference here right now. So we just need to see that maturity and the ability just to handle that pressure, get the ball out quick, find the outlets. And part of that, I think, is communication with Satterfield and how you set up those outlets and communication and being on the same page with your receivers. And there were a lot of problems with how receivers ran routes in this game.
I think it's a lot of the receivers. We saw, Dowdle run the wrong way on a run play.
And, literally Rule in his presser was like getting after the receivers in the presser.
Yeah. And poor blocking. And then I think maybe talking about wide receivers, I'm going to segue now into our most exciting wide receiver, the freshman himself. Is he the best wide receiver on our team?
Oh,
there might be an argument for that by the end of the year. It could actually be.
Right now he is the highest grade on PFF, which is crazy.
I think he's the best wide receiver on the team. I think that Banks is our most reliable. But
this game, again, Banks was dealing with a top 10 NFL draft pick all game.
Banks is clearly going to have his time. And I think Nayer's good. He's really good against man.
A little bit less reliant. No, zone, not against man.
But the Dylan Raiola-Barney connection in 2 years from now is going to be one of the most legendary in Nebraska football history, I think. He is so fast. I know that he keeps getting pulled back on penalties, which, we got to do better at blocking.
Brutal, man.
It drives me insane because he just rips off 20 yards. And Matt Rule talked about the end around. He's so fast. If somebody blocks a little bit better, it's a touchdown. Ja'Cory Barney is the real deal. We talked about it before the season happened, but I had no clue how fast he was. And I'm impressed by his run after contact, the way he runs routes.
Yeah, he's willing to be physical, which is scary considering his size. He looks like Devontae Smith when he has the ball in his hand. He really, really does. So the question, we haven't seen him downfield yet, except for in the spring game, which we did see him do it in the spring game. Like, we know it's in his tool bag to go downfield and make contested catches. So, like, at this point, like, the upside for Ja'Cory Barney is actually insane.
High. It's really high. I mean, at this point, how much he's shown with the breakout ability, I mean, this could be another, like, first, second round draft pick type guy.
He was an 89 overall prospect, 3-star. The gem finding here from Rule is insanely impressive.
I'm excited to see more. Obviously, we still need to see more. We don't want to jump the gun.
Sure.
But in a lot of ways, he's impressive.
Yeah, this is just one of those scenarios where, like, the coaching staff was talking about this guy all off season. Like, and then we see him dial up stuff for him week 1, and then they really dial up stuff for him here in week 2. And we'll talk about him more when we talk about Northern Iowa.
Yeah, I think what was Matt Rule's comment? He said, I can't find ways to get Ja'Cory Barney the ball enough in the last press conference.
Like, oh my goodness.
And it's true. I mean, he's a
right
baller.
now, Isaiah Nair is the 6th highest graded receiver versus zone coverage in the country out of 488 qualified receivers with at least, I think, like 7 or 8 targets. And Ja'Cory Barney is currently out of receivers with 7 targets, the 14th highest graded receiver in the country on PFF. So obviously it's only 2 weeks. There's a lot of football to be played, but that's about as good of a start as you could expect. You could ask for Ja'Cory Barney or Isaiah Nair, even though Nair was a little bit underwhelming in this game, I think, considering when he had the ball in his hands. But again, we were playing against a really solid secondary. It's like Barney's, most of his impact was behind the line of scrimmage. So it's just a little bit different of a usage. So overall, you gotta be excited. So let's just talk about running backs real quick. Thoughts on the dual nature of the RBs in this game? Basically, I guess how Rule sees it now is that Emmett's basically the backup to Rahmir and Gabe Ervin is the backup to Dowdell. So how do you think about Dowdell and his usage and Ramirez in general?
Yeah, I think Dowdell is a hard runner and Matt Rule gravitates towards that. He really does. He does a good job of shooting out the hole. I don't think he's very shifty. He just accepts the contact. I would have liked to see Emmett on some of those holes that were created for him in the first half. I think Emmett breaks a couple that Dowdell didn't.
Dowdell has a weird downhill style of running that's just like rare. You don't really see guys run like that because it's just like it's a straight line. Most of the time. He had that one nice one to the edge where he did break the tackle and looked nice. But for the most part, when he's going to the A gap, he's not really that patient. It's more like bang.
There was a couple times where he only had one safety left to beat. And you're like, instead of just running into him, I'd like to see him try and make a move, try it. Because I think there was a couple where it's like, that's a touchdown if you can make the safety miss you. And there wasn't really an attempt. It was more just, I'm going to lower the shoulder. And so, but obviously he looked good. I'm glad he held on to the football.
Yep.
And Rahmir,
we were a bit worried about that.
Rahmir, I thought, was more impressive than Dowdell was because of his ability to catch the ball. We saw that he led the team in pass catching. And I thought, again, he had that huge run that was 69 yards that got negated on a clear holding call. But his ability to be able to have that speed to break away, I think is nice. And again, I like the shiftiness that Rahmir brings on that aspect too. And he's looked like a nice hard runner. I would
one thing that Rule mentioned was pass protection, where Emmett looks good. And again, this is why I'm saying, like, Emmett, I just don't understand why we're not giving him. If I'm okay with Ervin being the 4th, but like Emmett needs to be more involved, in my opinion. Like Rahmir looks good and Dowdell looks good, but like Emmett has the highest upside, in my opinion, to be like truly an every down back. And he's the future of the backfield. Ramirez is going to be gone after this year. So it's like, maybe you're just trying to keep him healthy, but at the same time, you want to use your best guys and develop those guys. And so for me, in the long run, I think this week is a game where Rahmir or Emmett could dominate this week. I mean, he could literally dominate.
Yeah.
So I think
I agree.
We'll learn a lot more about Emmett in the next 2 weeks, probably.
With that being said, here we have a chance to go 3-0 for the first time in our channel's history. And we have a pretty good chance of that facing FCS mainstay Northern Iowa. The Panthers.
2-0 Northern Iowa. Only 2-0 team in the Missouri Valley Conference. All right.
Yeah, they have a great conference. They're loaded, right? They got South Dakota State, North Dakota State, North Dakota. It is a bloodbath themselves as a pretty impressive one. Mark Farley has been there forever for Northern Iowa. This is his 24th season.
Insane. That's crazy.
Incredible, right? I mean, you couldn't dream of being a coach that long. He hasn't had the most recent success, though. Most of the success came early. As you know, North Dakota State really rose to prominence, and so did South Dakota State. He's kind of tapered off. He hasn't won more than 6 games since 2019, so he needed a fresh change. So now Northern Iowa's switching it up. They brought in Trey Tinsley, a Washington State guy under Mike Leach, and he runs the air raid. So Northern Iowa's trying to change who they are a little bit, change their identity. We saw some passing. We watched their film from, St. Thomas, Minnesota, who they played this year. And also they played Valparaiso. Valparaiso, they won 35-7. It was an easy one. St. Thomas was a little bit closer.
Yeah, that's scary. You don't love seeing that.
You don't love seeing that St. Thomas gave you a run for the money. It was away. It was an away game, and it was the first game of the season.
Who knew you could even play an away game at St. Thomas?
Oh, I didn't even know. But probably a great thing to play there right now instead of in December.
True.
But, Northern Iowa's had some success. For those who don't know, Kurt Warner went there.
In the early 90s, man, that's crazy.
So, they have an NFL legend that we don't have at quarterback. I think Nebraska would happily have Kurt Warner in their ring of honor.
Well, I mean,
so
good Lord, like Mark Farley's produced more NFL players than us more draft picks in the last 5 years than we have. I mean, even dating back to guys like David Johnson in 2015, and they had a first round draft pick in 2022, Trevor Penning in 2022, 19th overall. So it's they have produced some legit NFL talent. Like you said, they haven't won more than 6 games since 2019. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag. But
still a really respectable team. Their best player, I would say, is Ty Edwards, their running back.
Oh, 100%.
And he had 536 yards and 5 touchdowns last year, 4.9 yards per carry. He had the most speed. Every time they handed him off the ball, especially in the Valparaiso game, he looked like he was going to break one. He looked to be just head and shoulders above everybody else on that field.
Oh, these are highlights we could actually show.
Both for Northern Iowa. Oh, yes. Both for Northern Iowa and the Valparaiso side. He just looked like the best player on the field. They also have a running back, Amari Pasek-Hickson, but just not the same amount of burst. I think he's going to have real problems against Nebraska. He looked more like a fullback speed. While that's great and he can be really physical in the FCS, I think they're going to have real problems trying to run him against a Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher, who will love eating that up just for breakfast. But I think, Ty Edwards has a real chance. Their QB,
he was you cannot emphasize enough how by far he was the best player on this team.
Yes,
it was not close. I mean, again, he has an 82.5 PFF grade, like you said.
He could go. He'd be a great match.
Highlights are showing him right now. He's a beast. He legitimately has elite top end speed, and I think he could be a legitimate starter at a pretty good school. So
Bowling Green would happily take this guy. He could start at Bowling Green.
Bowling Green nearly beat Penn State. Okay,
yeah, dude. They
let's put some respect on the talent.
That's what I'm saying. Ty Edwards could have pushed it over the edge.
Proud alumni. Okay, Bowling Green. That's right. No, but for real though, Ty Edwards is by far the most explosive and dynamic and dangerous player on this team. The rest of the offense, the other running backs like Amari Pasek-Hickson, he's all right.
He reminds me of slow-mo, just like a little Kyle Anderson,
Yeah. He's the change of pace back and physical, but you're there for the lightning. You're not there for the thunder in this case. That's really how it goes here.
I would say one more guy that I loved watching his tape, even though he's probably not that much of an X factor, is Lane Pryor. Their tight end.
He's an X factor.
Just a football guy. He was really good at the blocks. I saw just some elite pancakes. He loved just coming across, pulling somewhere, and just lighting up a guy. And I'm excited to see him. I'm glad, to see that they have just some Iowa dude who loves playing football. He had 11 catches, 119 yards last year and a touchdown. But he has those intangibles. He has the intangibles.
Yeah.
Just that hardworking, physical football guy, and he's worth shouting out.
100%. He was fun to watch. And overall, their offense is pretty straightforward. It's just a really basic zone read type of offense with a lot of 12 personnel out of shotgun. And so, you could think of it kind of like a Minnesota system of years past with Tanner Morgan. Very similar in that regard, but Aiden Dunn, their quarterback, is no Tanner Morgan. He's a first year starter. He was there for the last 2 years in Northern Illinois. In 2020, so far this season, he's got a 66.1 PFF grade, and there's just not much to write home about here. Some of the
if we don't have 2 picks,
nice.
I'd feel disappointed. If our defense doesn't walk away with at least 2 interceptions, I think I'd feel disappointed. He can throw a nice ball at times. There was a couple of nice touchdowns. It's not saying that he's inept in any way. It's just with the pressure that we're under pressure, he didn't look great. And I think our defense should hopefully be able to provide plenty of opportunities for the secondary to capitalize. So I hope our defense can do that this week. But like you said, nothing
the
too
athletic
impressive.
upside for this team is just clearly not there. They have a few guys who can compete at an elite level, I think, but besides that, they are lacking. On the defensive side, they were physical, and that's what you have to respect about that defense. They hit hard, and there was a few guys, especially their safeties. They had two safeties in a corner who were legitimately hard hitters, and they laid the wood a few times there. So you got to respect the physicality, but there seems to be some opportunities here for a lot of points for Nebraska to score. So when it comes to X factors, what are your thoughts here on what's going to change the game for Nebraska? We'll talk about kind of what we want to see in this game, building towards Illinois. But first, let's start with X factors of what do you think is going to be the difference for Nebraska, why we probably dominate this game?
Yeah, my one concern would be that Colorado was our most emotional win we've had in a long time for Nebraska. So no letdowns, showing our team just to continue to be that consistent, dominant force it needs to be. I would hate to walk out and we have a stinker there, for in the first quarter and kind of let down. I want us just to be us every time, right? We don't play up or down to competition. We are just consistently, like Rule said, methodical killers, right? Just we're going to do our jobs. We're going to play our brand of football no matter what happens.
Which has not been the case for the last 5 years.
Scott Frost was so up and down, as we saw with a Georgia Southern game, or we could play up to the Ohio States at times because we could emotionally meet them at that point. But just playing up or playing down and riding the waves of what team you are, that's a show of an immature team. I think we're a mature team, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. But this is the most temptation we have had as a team to do this in a long period of time. So I want to see us just come out and just be
That's why it's so nice we have this game versus before we have the Illinois game.
If it was Illinois, I'm
terrified,
legitimately concerned that we are going to have a trap game. That would be a legitimate trap game.
They could still win. I mean, obviously, next week they're going to be a top 25 team next week.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you don't want to get caught looking too forward here. But even then, I think our backups will be able to do some work here. But I mean, inevitably in the trenches, we're going to have a huge advantage, both sides of the ball. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said earlier, Emmett Johnson, I think, could absolutely dominate in this game, both to the edges and directly in the A and B gaps. I think we could dominate on the interior here, and we're going to be way more physical and have so much more speed to the outside here. So, I mean, imagine Ja'Cory Barney here on a jet sweep. I think we're going to be able to get to the edges at an elite level, and their linebacking core is going to have no chance in the open field. No chance.
No, and again, the other kind of intangible X factor is it's another night game in Lincoln. And this is the most hype Nebraska's had in a long time. This poor Northern Iowa team, they are going to run into a buzzsaw. Our crowd I looked at tickets, they're almost, $84 for
that's crazy.
For a bad ticket in Memorial Stadium. That's something that hasn't happened. So that means after fees, you're paying over $100. Our crowd is going to be in a frenzy. That third quarter light show, everybody's excited. I mean, it's a special thing. It's an exciting thing. I think that's an X factor. A night game is a hard place to play in Lincoln. So luckily, I think emotionally, that trap won't be there as much because, again, under the lights in Lincoln is always a fun time.
I mean, in a game like this, when it comes to X factors, there aren't that many X factors because it's really about are you going to score 40 or are you going to score 60? You're going to score 30. You're going to score 80. That's really
it feels like a mismatch
here.
At every single position. I do think their offensive line is respectable. They looked a lot bigger than a Valparaiso, than a St. Thomas, Minnesota. But our defense should still show that we should outclass them in every way.
So then the question is, okay, what do you want to see in this game to build towards Illinois? What would get you excited about the odds that we improve our odds to beat Illinois versus what would, give you a few hesitations, a little bit of worry for how we're building this program or how we might play heading into Illinois?
Like you said, with the dominance, I want to see our backups on offense and defense completely shut them down, right? We saw it against UTEP, which was exciting. I want to continue to see our offense to be able to score as second and third string comes in, and second and third string defense. We should show that, even with their starters in, they should have no business being with our third string team. We should run all over them in that sense. I also want to see again, no turnovers. A third game in a row with no Dylan Raiola turnovers and no fumbles would make me really excited for Nebraska just in general. To have only one turnover going through one quarter of the season, that would feel really nice.
You know that Satterfield and Rule aren't going to want to give away much in this game. Just like in week 1 where we didn't blitz once and didn't show literally anything before Colorado, I would be shocked if we saw anything in this game that's pretty unique or special or different. So if anything, you'd expect this game to be almost the exact same thing we did against Colorado, where you just kind of line up and you make plays. You're not going to really reveal too much more before an Illinois game that's going to be a ranked game in Lincoln next week. So yeah, I'm with you. I think you just have to hope to see a physical dominance down to the third stringers, and you hope to take care of the ball, and you really just hope that you establish the run game in a way that is truly dominant. And I want to see like 350 yards rushing in this game, something like that. And all like 3 or 4 guys have near 100. That'd be so much fun. And I think that genuinely is possible in a game like this. One thing to note is that Mekhi Beyer will be out for this game. So right now, Rule was talking about which might be the whole game. So that will be something to talk about here. I mean, Rule did say Stephen Thompson and Vince Shavers are going to be those 2 guys, which of course we assumed. So we're going to be seeing a lot of both of those guys probably in this game, which is exciting. And yeah, we're going to get to see the depth at linebacker is going to really be on display in this game with Mekhi Beyer out. And then we're going to probably see a lot of the backups later on. So I'm excited to see exactly what a lot of this defense has, especially as we sub in some of those defensive guys. So yeah, Vince Shavers and Stephen Thompson. So do you have any expectations for them or what we'd love to see for them just from a physical standpoint?
Yeah, physicality, the same amount. Knowing that our defense, we're going to have so many new guys for next year. This game is invaluable for getting our starters off the field early to give these guys live reps under the lights. This is huge, especially if we can give them a half. Can we just blow them out by 45 by halftime? That'd be really nice. That means we get a full half with, Heinrich and the rest of the guys, our backup running backs, keep us healthy as we enter, the Big Ten physical play of Illinois. That's a huge X factor. Get off the field by halftime, make this 45-0 and then watch our backups dominate. You can't really ask for anything better for developmentally. I want to see Willis McGahee dominate some of those other young names.
Yeah.
I want to see what kind of cornerback depth we have. Our safety.
We're going to see a lot of Sierra Wright in this game, probably stuff like that.
And so that's all really helpful. I think
Blyhill.
Yeah, Blyhill. There's a lot to really be gained from beating up on this team at halftime. And so, as I head into the predictions for my prediction for the game.
Well, I was going to say, can I just say one other thing I wanted to say first was that I think overall, just from a structural standpoint, you want to see an offense that doesn't have those hiccups, the guy running the wrong way or running the wrong play. Just from like a structural standpoint, just the simple things that wasn't happening in the second half. Those things have to be better in this game. They have to be.
Yep.
So that's, of course, a key that you have to see. So with that said, now predictions, what are your thoughts here?
Night game in Lincoln.
Northern Iowa by 20?
The biggest hype that we've had in, a decade. It doesn't matter which string of defense is in there. Nebraska shuts them out 63-0. This is the most feel-good win that we have had in a long time because this team, it doesn't matter who's coming in. We're not up, we're not down. We play to our standard. 63-0 Nebraska.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I can, of course, see it. I was thinking about maybe a comparative game would have been like Fordham. And in 2021, we won 52-7. Something along those lines. Bethune-Cookman maybe would be like, was that 2019 or 2018? When was that? 2018 was 45-9 against Bethune-Cookman.
And that feels bad. That felt bad.
That feels bad. Exactly. But again, that was a year where we lost to Troy and, come on, we were pretty terrible.
Dark times. Riker 5, baby.
I think a 45 to like a 42-7 or 42-10 is probably like the worst case scenario. 42-10 is probably like something on the worst case scenario. If you see anything worse than that, I would not be happy. So I'm going to go on the little bit lower side, just assuming that we take our foot off the pedal, similar to the second half of the Colorado game, and the second stringers just have a little bit less oiled of a machine than the first stringers are here. So I think there is still going to be a bit of a difference between the first string, second string, third string. So I'm going to go 45-6. in this game. Unfortunately, by the way, we don't have Vegas odds yet as of the time we're making this video.
I know. What's up with that?
Which is unreal. Literally every other team has Vegas odds out right now. We don't, which makes no sense. But anyway, so it's brutal. But I'm going to go 45-6 in a pretty solid dominant win. Probably just we lag in the end in the third, fourth quarter, which is going to be a bit disappointing in my opinion. But we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong about that. So with that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We want to shout out the winner of last week's prediction, which was Papa Scruff with a 28-17 prediction for Nebraska in the Colorado game. So yeah, nearly nailed it. Pretty good there. So join the Discord links down in the description if you want to hang out with us during the games and give out your predictions. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Big Red Homestead. And guys, we'll see you next time.
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red, baby.